The Need for Speed games started getting familiar after the release of Underground and Most Wanted. But after Most Wanted 2012, the game started to take a direction that made a lot of people lose interest. So in this video, we will find out the Need for Speed game that became the best in the decade, players loved, spent hours playing, and creating memories, and almost brought back the nostalgic vibes. So stick around to see which game deserved the title. To figure the current situation of the Need for Speed series, we have to dive back to the complete disaster in 2017. The game had high hopes, but it was disappointing. When players ask for improvements or a new Need for Speed game, they don't just mean that they want a new game from scratch or a new style. When you find a good game that you really like, you always want to keep the good elements in it, but also add better ones. That's what Payback failed to do. As an example of this, the police chase system. We have to follow a set path via checkpoints within a time limit, instead of improvising and doing something unpredictable to throw them off. There aren't any cops around during free roam, they are only present in story missions or at certain triggers spread around the map that will initiate another linear preset chase. Much worse is that performance customization has been distilled into a collectible card game. You would kinda feel like you're playing Asphalt Legend. Unlike Need for Speed 2015, Need for Speed Payback is a big, competent, and confident arcade racer, but it's really let down by its linear cup chases, its overrode and ambitious upgrade system, and its dreadful dialogue, and its superficial action sequences. After the big disappointment of Payback, when Need for Speed Heat was announced, players weren't sure that Need for Speed Heat would be the game that the series needed, but it was a surprise. Amazing visuals, cozy night vibes lighted by neons, way better police system, a well-chosen world, Palm City, which is an inspiration of Miami. The game threw away a lot of the hazards from Payback. The game offered official races in the morning, earns you money, and with a press of a button, when you just feel like it, you immediately switch to nighttime, when it's all about taking risk and being rewarded afterwards. The more your heat level goes up, the more repetition points you get, and you only have 3 repairs a night. Heat's upgrade system is a gigantic improvement over Payback. The game had engine swaps, plenty of cosmetic customizations, and even exhaust tuning to adjust your flamethrower's power. You can see that Need for Speed Heat brought back interest in content creation. 2019 and 2020 were the golden years for the game. Famous YouTubers made decent content about the game, from the quick ending story walkthroughs to funny police chases at night, maximum repetition points a night challenges, and I personally enjoyed those days a lot. Overall, Need for Speed Heat has been the most interesting Need for Speed game in years, but it could have been better. IGN rated this game at 8 out of 10. It could have been 9 or even 9.5. It's not impossible, but the game had some issues that prevented it from almost being perfect. The game's story wasn't that bad, but when you play it, you feel like it ends quickly. It's only 14 hours. Ghost games should have made it longer, pushing it to the 25 or 30 hours length. That's what differs Need for Speed from other arcade racing games like The Crew or Forza Horizon 5. Moving on to the progression system, which also ends up quickly, the maximum level you can get is level 50. You can achieve it easily playing 2 or 3 days casually. The game could have converted that system into a regularly updated progression with more levels every week, more added vehicles and rewards. Because when you reach the maximum level and get all special repair parts, there isn't any reason to play Joyful Nighttime anymore. Some players keep playing it as a survival game, trying to achieve the highest rep points and challenge themselves. The game was actually quite interesting, but it ends. That's the problem. Now, Need for Speed Unbound came out in 2022. The game is only available to new gen consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, so when you think about it, the game already grabbed a huge amount of potential players and threw them out the window. Criterion and EA were like, oh, old-gen consoles? This is gross. We don't do old-gen anymore. Listen, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has old-gen support. So do the Crew Motorfest. There is no excuse whatsoever not to have old-gen support, at least in 2022. Unless the game is a complete huge exploit of hardware, like having huge maps and big visual upgrades, you can also add old-gen support with lower requirements mode. Forza Horizon 5 still looks amazing on Xbox One, still today. Will this help the next game title? Not that much anymore. Why? After 5 years of the new gen, the larger amount of players now move to the new gen as the logistic and some other difficulties caused by COVID and some conflicts in the last years have been solved. Now let's get back to the game itself. Need for Speed Unbound is unique with its cartoonish anime-style characters and visual effects. This isn't what we expect when we hear Need for Speed. Some people like it, you may not. The game changed a lot of the Heat Underground vibe. The world just feels different. The game doesn't have the nighttime vibes like Heat. I'm not talking technically, I'm talking about the overall feelings and context that the game should put the player in. Maybe they wanted the game to compete with the current approach racing games like Forza Horizon 5 and the Crew Motorfest are pursuing. I don't know why they just don't understand that Need for Speed has its own characteristics, and it will still be amazing for Need for Speed lovers. So Unbound's gameplay was quite good, and they made nice job in the recent updates, like the new drift tires that made drifting much better. Also, the overall handling is better than Heat actually. The game also has decent customizations, not worse than Heat at all. The online system has been improved a lot by the updates, and it's actually quite fun to play Need for Speed Unbound's online today. The sessioning is even better than Heat. But again, we come back to the same point, the feel and the vibes of Heat's online system is absolutely better. In the night, everyone in the session could be doing their own things. Some players may be racing in a high heat race, others just cruising around, and they come across each other. That was amazing. Now let's stop talking a little bit. You can say all you want, whether Heat or Unbound is better, but the numbers don't lie. Now let's look at VG Insight's quick stats of both Need for Speed Unbound and Need for Speed Heat. Look, Need for Speed Heat has almost the double of active players 55 minutes ago. So look, a 2019 game has more active players than a 22 game. This just tells us that people enjoyed playing Need for Speed Heat more. Also, look at the positive reviews. Need for Speed Heat has 83.7 and Need for Speed Unbound had 59.7. Those are actually on Steam. I'm not sure that the units sold section is perfectly accurate, but again, Need for Speed Heat has the double. But here's the thing. When you look at the average playtime, Need for Speed Heat has 19 hours, Need for Speed Unbound has 25 hours. So Need for Speed Heat brought more players to the game, but the players that Need for Speed Unbound brought to the game actually stuck around to the game a little more than Need for Speed Heat. Also, when we see the IGN ratings for Payback, Heat, and Unbound, it's like down, up, then down again. And we can see that Heat is the best modern Need for Speed, almost one of the best Need for Speeds of all time. So here's the question. Is the current situation of the Need for Speed series fixable? Yes, of course it's fixable, but Criterion and AA should consider 5 key things, in my opinion, that would make the next Need for Speed game a golden one. First, the game should be ready at the release time. We don't want any unfinished games anymore. More interesting and longer story, this alone would bring a lot more players and would make them interested in the game and also play longer hours. Stick to the original Need for Speed vibe. You see Need for Speed Unbound upgraded some technical elements in the game, but it changed the original Need for Speed vibe. More care to after release updates. If Need for Speed cared more after the release updates, making content, adding more vehicles, levels, it would make the game alive for longer time, like the Crew Motorfest or Forza Horizon 5. And also, we don't want EA to be greedy with the microtransactions. And we have got an honorable mention. Please bring back the Supra, okay? And that's it for today's video. Let me know what do you think are the important elements that would make the next Need for Speed a good one. And if you are pissed of Need for Speed Payback, Unbound, maybe Heat, check out this video to see the top upcoming racing titles in 2025. You might have fun playing one of them. And also subscribe, and as always, see you soon.